that was a test.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Okay, so welcome to the show. My name is Zach. I'll give an introduction to myself some other episode because this is about the other people. So, would you like to introduce yourself with like name, major, all that fun stuff?
Okay. So my name's Ishani Adidam. She, her, hers. Major business administration, concentration in human resources and business analytics. Minor in public health. I'm a second year student. I was born and raised in Omaha, lived here my entire life. My dad works at UNO, so that's kind of the pipeline on why I'm here. Any other information?
No, I mean that's about it. So then like basically people know like where you are and like what you do here, like what your major is and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So, that's annoying. You mentioned you were in student government. Okay, so what do you do like on campus?
Yeah, so I'm involved in like a couple of different organizations, main one being student government. I currently serve as CBA senator and rules committee chair, but before that I was involved in FYLC or freshman year leadership council or first year leadership council. And then I served because of FYLC, I was freshman year ambassador. So that was really fun. Definitely a fun experience getting to know Senate. And then once I finally was able to be involved in Senate and vote and things like that, I really fell in love with student government. I met all my friends through student government, so it was just a great experience. And I knew that next year I obviously want to be more involved in student government, so that was kind of why I decided to run. Other leadership experience, I'm currently involved in one of the student government agencies, the Women Gender Equity Center. As a board member, it's been really fun being involved in that process. Last year, me and a couple of my friends, you know Navi and Miriam.
I do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we did this thing called Her Drive Omaha. It was like a nonprofit based in Chicago, but we started our own branch to like raise a bunch of period products through that. And yeah, I've just always been a really big fan of women equity. So I just thought it would be a great opportunity to kind of do it at a school level. What else? Yeah, I'm involved in the business school quite a lot. I'm a part of the scholarship program called the CBA Scholars Academy. It has definitely been a really big help in like funding my education, but also like meeting new people, being in cohort classes, and having a business professional mentor. That has been such a blessing. I'm also involved in the entrepreneurship living learning community. I'm currently the program director of that, so I manage or lead 12 students on how they want to pursue entrepreneurship, what entrepreneurship looks like at a student level or at a professional level, and how to get them involved in various startups in Omaha. What else? I feel like I'm missing a lot of stuff, but you know what? If it pops up, we'll jump right into it. But another big thing. I'm a big fan of Taylor Swift, so I actually got involved in the UNO Swifties this year. So I'm actually their event chair. So that's a fun, quirky opportunity that I got offered this year, which I'm really glad to be a part of it. Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot of dip on the chip. You're still like a full-time student?
Yeah, so I'm actually a full-time student. I work 2 jobs, so super fun. Love.
We might talk a little bit more about that later on down the road about how you like manage that because I think people might be interested in how you're able to do that.
Yeah.
Because for some, just like working one job and going to school full time is a lot.
Yeah.
So we might talk about that.
Okay.
Who knows? But first, I want to go into like your background and what brought you here and like how you grew up.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually have a twin brother. He's currently at Indiana University studying business administration there. But the reason I decided to come to UNO is because I've never really been a big fan of like change, and I knew that it was going to be here or Lincoln, and I just didn't want to leave Omaha. I have a lot of connections to Omaha. As I said, I was born and raised here, and it just felt like the perfect fit. My dad works at the university too, so having connections through him and like having that support system is something that I've always valued and didn't want to give it up at the ripe age of 17. So I was like, you know what? Let's stay here. Let's stick it out. And then I've known Miriam and Navia like all throughout high school or like in high school, and when I figured out they were coming here, I was like, you know what? It's like meant to be. So we all just joined UNO, and it's definitely the best decision I've ever made. So yeah.
What type of stuff were you involved in as far as like clubs, sports, any of that stuff?
In high school, I honestly wasn't involved like at all, which is really weird because I was just so focused on like doing well in school that I literally forgot to like do things outside of school. And that's why when I came to UNO, the biggest thing I wanted to do was get involved because I know how impactful involvement was to students who were involved. I was involved in like, I don't know, like a couple of different organizations, but it wasn't enough to say like I did that. You know what I'm saying? Like I went to a couple meetings, but I didn't really. It was like 30 minutes of just talking, and then I would leave, grab the free food, and dip. You know what I'm saying?
That's what gets people to clubs.
Yeah.
Free food.
Yeah.
So what about in middle school? Did you do any like clubs or anything?
I was actually part of international club. I thought that was fun. It was literally for the free food once again, but I went to every single meeting. Yeah, I also did track in middle school. Was not good at that. 7th grade, I specifically told like our track coach or whatever, like I did not want to run the 400. That was the one event I didn't want to do. Like put me in the 100, 200, I got that. 400, no. Literally every single event during that 7th grade track meet season or whatever, she put me in the 400 every single event. And I always came dead last every single time. And so it was really humbling. But then 8th grade, I was like, you know what? I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to do jumping. And so then I went to the jumping team and they literally kicked me off because they were like, you just can't jump. And I was like, okay, thank you. And so then I was like, okay, I'll do hurdles. I go to the first meet and then I think the first hurdle I was able to get over. The second hurdle, I literally sprained my knee. So I was out the rest of the track season in 8th grade. Yeah. Also did show choir in middle school. That was like in and of experience. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that. That was like low key an interesting, weird time. Yeah.
Yeah, middle school is a weird time.
Yeah.
So you did no sports in high school?
No.
Or like some of those like clubs that was it?
Yeah, it was weird. I just like I didn't think that like clubs should have been a priority in high school. Like I was never really involved. And then the reason I decided to like join clubs in college was because one of the big things I was looking at was like during the college application process was like other involvement. And I didn't have anything to say, right? Like I had a good GPA, but like other than that, what else did I have to offer? Not a lot. I was in National Honor Society, but once again, that's based on your GPA. So yeah.
What would you have done differently in high school knowing what like you know now then?
Yeah, definitely get more involved. There are so many organizations in high school. Like, I'm pretty sure we had a student government or something like that, or student council. I think we also had an international club. We had debate, speech. We had so many different things. And I feel like if I would have just tried, like, even though if I would have failed, like, the fact that I tried to put an effort is something that I think really would have helped me. Like, just get more confidence in myself and, like, my abilities. Because it's so much better to realize, like, what you're good at earlier. And even though, like, I'm still 19, I have a lot of time, but it would have been nice to know that when I was 15 or 14. But, yeah.
Cool. So then you're starting to wrap up high school. And did you know for a fact that you were going to go to college? Or, like, what was your thinking process for, like, what you were going to do after?
Yeah, so my family is pretty, like, education-oriented. I come from a family of teachers. All my grandparents are teachers. My dad's a teacher. He actually teaches here. So I knew from the get-go that I was going to college. Yeah, there was really, like, no decision. It was kind of like, you know, after high school, you get your 2 months, and then, oh, where are you going? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like a communal thing. Like, all my friends, we all knew we were going to go to college. And I think it's also from that, like, immigrant perspective as well. Like, my parents came here to, like, give us a better lives. And a lot of that is, like, through education and, like, through getting your bachelor's degree, getting your master's degree, going to, like, different secondary institutions. So it was kind of like, you are going to college. No questions. But, yeah.
If you didn't have any, like, familial, like, pressure to do that, would you still have gone that route?
Yeah, I think I really love school. Like, in high school, I worked as a tutor. Freshman and sophomore year, I worked as a peer tutor, so I taught in, like, biology and chemistry. And then I got paid for it my junior and senior year by teaching like high-level math and early-level reading.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always like loved teaching and learning and like bettering myself. And so I knew that I was going to go to college. I just feel like I'm very student-oriented. Like I love learning. I don't even know what I'm going to do after college because it's going to stress me out because then I have to find a job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just like, I can't. Like, no.
It will be one day, but it's
No.
not today, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then you work your way into this fine institution, UNO.
Yeah.
So I think earlier you mentioned like you chose UNO because I think you said it between UNO and UNL, and you just chose UNO. What was your initial experience like as a new student here?
It was just overwhelming. I remember I'm not really good at making friends. I see myself as like more of an introvert than an extrovert. And so I remember meeting my roommates for the first time and I didn't talk to them for like an entire week. Cause like I just didn't know how to like start talking to them.
Yeah.
And so it was really weird because like after we became friends and everything, they're like, yeah, we just thought you hated us. And, like, everyone in my class was just like, yeah, we just thought you hated us, which is, like, valid because, like, I didn't even, like, try to reach out. So it was just overwhelming from the fact where it was, like, I just didn't know what to do or, like, everything was new and I didn't know how to navigate that. And the reason I chose UNO was so that it was in Omaha and that I would be familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, like, going to a new place will always be new and there's always going to be challenges and I just didn't realize what those challenges would be until I started. But it was definitely a fun first 3 months. But you know what? We're good. We're good. We figured it out and that's all that matters.
Yeah, one step at a time.
Yeah.
One problem at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So so I know your father teaches here and a bunch of your family members are teachers, you said. How did they help you like at all with like preparing for this college experience, or was it like you figuring out solo?
Yeah, so it's really weird. So I think I mentioned this, but all my family's from India. So we don't really have a lot of family here and like the educational institutions in India are very different than the ones in America. And what I realized, like even though my dad works here, like he had no idea like anything about like what first year students have to do, how to even apply for college, like what the FAFSA is, how to fill it out and things like that. And so it was definitely like a very interesting challenge for like my entire family to figure out. But the cool thing is that since he had like a really large network here at UNO, like I met with a lot of like faculty, advisors and things like that to help me like figure out how to transition into college successfully and how to set myself up for success while I'm here. Which I think was definitely, like, something I will never take for granted because having the opportunity to, like, know in advance, like, what you should and shouldn't do is always, like, a blessing, right? Like, you don't make as big mistakes as, like, one would have. Or, like, if I didn't get the advice to be involved in, like, organizations inside and outside of CBA, I probably would not be where I am today, so.
Yeah, my first go around of university was less than optimal. So there were a lot of things that I wish I would have known the first time.
Yeah.
That I'm taking into the second round that I'm just doing much better in. So,
yeah.
Like going into to university, with I guess like some tools in your toolbox of like what to do, what not to do is really useful because I'm sure you've seen, like I saw my first time when I was a freshman, like people just coming in and they kind of just like go around aimlessly.
Yeah.
And you're spending a lot of money to just wander and just do a bunch of random stuff. So like knowing what to do and what not to do is really useful.
I agree. Especially since you are paying for college, that was like a big thing for me, like utilizing my college money and actually getting my bucks worth. Because I don't know. I don't think I could justify spending so much and then not utilizing it to its fullest potential. So, yeah.
Yeah. It might also be like a level of privilege that some people might have, some others might not.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but that's a completely different conversation. So, you get involved. what type of stuff did you get involved with? I know you were in the first year leadership academy, but what other stuff were you involved in?
Um, that was basically it. That, and then I had to be involved in like a CBA organization. So I was involved in like the Collegiate Entrepreneurship Organization, and then I was also involved in the ELLC. But I kind of kept it very simple my first year. Honestly, I just didn't know what to do or like how school was gonna go, because like I had this feeling that it was just gonna go downhill, and so I did not want to like ever hit that point where like I was just losing control of everything. And then I think in November of my first year, I started my first job. And then January of like my second semester, I started my second job. So it was like, I'm already doing 3 pretty big things. And like, I consider school like maybe a 40-hour, and then I have 2 20-hours. So like, what? That's 80 hours. And I just didn't know how to tackle or tack on student involvement on top of that. So I just wanted to get those under control before I started, becoming more involved like I am this year.
So as you were starting to get like more involved progressively with all the different clubs and whatnot, what were some of the different things that you developed personally in order to be able to do that?
Yeah, so I think I'm just such like a maximizer. Like I really want to utilize my time and like be productive and things like that. And so even though I have like 10 hours or whatever, like I'd rather spend it doing something than relaxing. But I feel like I have the personality for that, and I know it's not for everyone, but prioritizing school is like super important for me. So making sure that like Monday and Tuesday I like focus like solely on school. And then Wednesday and Thursday, like I can, like start focusing on other things. But like school is like the number one priority. And so if I'm not doing well in school, then I know that I have to like let go of first student involvement and then work and then kind of see where it's at. But I don't know. I feel like I just have a personality for doing things, but I know that's not for everyone. But yeah, it's been a really big struggle this year, especially with running and trying to figure out that, because these past few weeks, man, they have really been testing me. But you know what? I feel like it's going well. It's going well, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So, yeah.
I mean, it's a very important position. So
Yeah. It's going to
motion
work.
sensor.
There we go.
Yeah, it's a very influential and important position, so I wouldn't think it would be an easy one. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming both of like your guys' ticket and the other ticket are putting in a lot of work behind the scenes. Like during the debate, this is going off track. During the debate that happened last night, which you guys did a great job, the other ticket did a great job. Like each sides had like prep work in front of them. Like you guys had paper, they had paper. So like you guys met up, or like you guys did like stuff in the back end, so then you guys were prepared for like the random questions that were asked. So a lot of work goes into it that's unseen.
Yeah. We were like, I think Sunday we met and we were like, what if they just throw us most like outlandish questions? We had like an entire document just like for like the most randomest questions or just like attack questions. And we were like, we don't even know how this is going to go, right? So we just want to be prepared for like every single scenario out there. And in the end, I think only 2 of like the things that we had written down were like on the sheet that we prepared. So it was really interesting to just kind of like whisper, but not like whisper, and then listen to the other people, but then also like figure out what you're gonna say and then who's gonna say it.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a fun challenge. But I think one of the greatest things about our ticket, or for me personally, is that we have 2 comms majors. So Robert and Cecily are both comms majors. So they've like got that under control, and then I'm just learning as I go. So that was a really fun opportunity for me specifically, because I know they've been in those positions, whereas like I have not. So that was really interesting. But I had a great time. I feel like I learned a lot from like everyone, like even my own ticket members. So that was fun.
Yeah. We'll probably go into that later.
Okay.
But going back to, I guess, like getting up to this point, so you're involved in a few things, you started escalating. Yeah, the question was like some of the different things that you developed personally. So you mentioned one thing. Are there any other things that like you learned as you were like scaling the stuff on your plate?
Yeah, so what I realized is like I'm such a yes person, and you have to say no. there are going to be some things where, like, you can't commit. Like, there are only 24 hours in a day. And when you're planning out work for a 32-hour day, like, it's obviously not going to work and it's not going to be feasible. And so making sure that you prioritize things and, like, saying no. And I think that was the biggest step I've had to learn, especially with the election, right? Like, this has taken up so much of my time. I've had to say no to, like, different opportunities and, like, different meetings and things like that because I'm just not able to commit to, like, working on this election, but also being present and, like, trying to do more for other organizations. And I think that comes with its own, like, upsides and downsides, but it's the sacrifice that you have to be willing to make and understand that you're making. And I think it's better than committing false promises and then not following through. Because I've learned that the hard way, where it's like, I'll get it done. Just give me, like, 2 more days. Just give me, like, another 2 days. And it just never gets done. And then it's like, they could have easily delegated it to someone else or done it themselves. But I'm over here taking up 4 of their days, not doing what I was supposed to do. So just knowing your limits. I've had to do this a lot with, like, the WGEC. I started off being, like, really involved. But I think it came to a point where I feel like I was just not doing well in other areas of my life, so I had to cut back on it. And I obviously want to get, like, a decent amount of sleep and then have a social life. So it was really tricky finding that balance because it was, like, all scaling up and then scaling down and scaling back up again. So it's like trying to find that point where, like, I'm comfortable being involved in, like, doing tasks for other organizations, but also taking care of myself and, like, my mental health and, you know, feeling okay.
Yeah, it's always like a constant reevaluation of yourself and your time that you have to do. Because if you don't, then you will get to a point where you get burnt out because you're spending too much time in one thing or another. Or you'll end up in some club or doing some job that you're like, wait, I actually don't want to be doing this. Why am I spending, like, 6 hours a day doing this?
Yeah, it was actually funny because I was involved in Math Pro last semester. And this semester I wasn't, like, able to do it. Not because I didn't love it, but it was literally because I just didn't have the bandwidth for it. And then recognizing that I can't commit is, like, it takes a while because you want to do it, but at the end of the day, when you aren't able to do it, you just have to, like, you just know, right? So you have to be able to step back from those positions, which is hard, but you know what? It's worth it. Yeah. At
the end of the day, you're getting to your goals somehow. So yeah, what you're doing, you just have to get there somehow. So going into your second year after your first year, did you do anything over the summer?
I worked 40 hours. I don't know. I like my summers to be chill. I don't like doing anything. Like, breaks, like, literally, I feel like that's my relaxed time where I can, like, I literally do nothing. Yeah.
Well, it is a summer break.
Yeah.
So, but you worked 40 hours.
Yeah. Like, I had a full-time job. Yeah, that was it.
Okay. So then going into your second year, what did you, like, have any goals, like, coming from your first year of college, going into your second year, like, reflecting on stuff and then being like, okay, I want to do this, so
I definitely wanted to be one of the, I wouldn't say leaders in student government, but one of the people who are more outspoken, I feel like. And I know that it's a really hard balance to come off as, like, aggressive versus coming off as, like, voicing your opinion. I also knew I wanted to, like, work more in, like, actual, like, change in making positions rather than, like, theoretical. So I actually wanted to do the work that I like, you know, signed up for.
Yeah.
Because in FYLC, or as the freshman ambassador the previous year, I literally just sat and did homework during meetings. And I did not want to do that this year because it's like I'm taking up someone else's spot, right? Someone else who could be senator, I'm taking up their spot. So I knew that, like, regardless of not, like, I think me and Kaden were the only people to apply. So I was going to get the spot anyways. But, like, if somebody else, like, wanted to apply, like, it just didn't seem fair that I was taking up their spot and not representing my constituents well. That was kind of the biggest thing I wanted to do. But I also want to, like, be more involved in, like, other organizations. So I mentioned WGEC, but I don't think I mentioned ISA. So Indian Student Association has been, like, a really big part of, like, my second year. I'm currently their marketing director. And it's really interesting looking at it from, like, what the organization looks like. Because I know in student government, it's very much made up of undergrad students. but ISA is mainly made up of grad students, and they're all like basically international students. And so there's obviously like a culture difference, and they obviously don't have the same perspective as I do. And so it's really interesting having these conversations and trying to find times on like when to meet, when everyone works jobs and has to take night classes. And so it was a really weird perspective, but it really taught me how to collaborate. You know what I'm saying? Like being put in these challenges has really shown me like what we can do as students and like the change we can create. And then honestly, like revitalizing ISA or being a part of like that group and like seeing things come into fruition has been really impactful. For example, like our Diwali event, I think we had like almost 200 people attend, which was so cool. And I would have never expected that because like I have to give a lot of credit to Navia because she did a lot of work, but it was so cool to like watch it from like getting sponsorships or like getting the grant program donation and then working with the grad students, coming up with the flyers and then posting and then getting interactions and things like that. It was really cool to like see it come into fruition to like a successful event. And I was really proud of that. And I think that's something I would have never expected from like first year college Ishani or even high school Ishani or even middle school Ishani. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was really cool to like see that come together. And that's something I'm really proud of, to like actually see like deliverables that can be like assessed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I forgot to ask one thing about your first year because I'm not sure if any of the other people I'll be talking to have this perspective. So can you go into a little bit more of the FYLC, the First Year Leadership Academy, and like what that experience was like?
Yeah, so it's really cool. So I think at the time it was the vice president running it. And it was essentially like meetings every week about like leadership and how to be better leaders. And then second semester was mainly focused on like creating events on campus and like writing resolutions and like being more active in student government. And I think it was a really great opportunity. But I think the best thing about being an FYLC is getting the opportunity to run for the freshman year ambassador position and then actually sitting in on Senate meetings and then having a voice. I think it's really important, and I think it really shaped me on like how I view my CBA Senate position, because if I wasn't involved as like a freshman year ambassador, I don't think I would have like actually realized the potential that I could do with like my Senate position currently. So, yeah. There we go again with the lights.
This will be a funny moment in the video. And now I know that this will be a problem, so...
Yeah. You just need to move around a bit.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, FYLC is a part of SGA, which is like Student Government Association, which is student government here at UNO. Is FYLC basically like a primer?
I would say so.
For like future senators or future exec members?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Nate Osdick, he was in FYLC with my cohort last year, so he can probably attest to this as well. I think it's just a really great opportunity. I met so many cool people. I've met some of my closest friends in that club, and I probably wouldn't trade it for anything. I think it's more of like a social club than anything, because like low-key we would just like gossip all the time, which is fine, but it's just a great way to meet people and then meet like-minded individuals, meet people who actually want to make change on campus. And I think that's the biggest thing that like any organization can give you, is just like connections. So yeah, it was just a great way to connect with others.
Cool. Yeah, I was never in that. I went straight into student government.
As you should. But like a lot of people do that, right?
Yeah. But I feel like if I was a part of that, if I was a freshman here, I think that would be really helpful.
It is.
Like even if I wasn't going into student government, like I'm sure you learn some things that are good.
It's true. I think it's like, I wouldn't even say it's like a student government primer. I think it's like more of a leadership primer, because there's a lot of like FYLC members from my cohort that are like in different leadership positions like all across campus. And so it really does like help you figure out like how to be a better leader, how to be more inclusive, how to lead teams, and just be a better person, right? So it was really nice.
Yeah. Okay. So that was first year. Now back to second year. So you're currently in your second semester of your second year. So what was your first well, I think you already kind of answered this, but like what was like your first semester like?
It was good. I mean, it's definitely not as busy as now, but at the same time, I think that I was trying to focus a lot of my intention into just mainly student government. I feel like student government is always like my top priority with like student involvement. But then also I wanted to make sure that I was like very secure in like my work schedules and like being a student first. And then I think it went well. I had a pretty easy class load compared to this semester, so that's probably why I feel like I'm doing so much this semester.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think also being a business major also lends to that as well. Just, not having to take like pre-med classes, because I know if I were taking chemistry, I would not be in this position.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. So now going into the second year, or not it's another year, but second semester.
Yeah.
What has it been like so far as like your student experience before like you started running for this political campaign?
It was good. I feel like I solidified myself as like a student leader in being involved in different organizations. It was kind of cool. I got people like reaching out to me on like how to get involved. And I was like, dang, like I have the connections. I have the network. And that was a really like fun like aha moment where it's like, well, people are asking me for advice on like how to, get a better work-life balance or how to get involved, like who to talk to when like looking at organizations. And it was just a nice feeling, right? And then it's always nice to like be that person for someone. I think a really big thing about me is I really like helping people and like having people like reach their fullest potential. Like I know for a fact that like if I'm not well, like if I help others, like it'll make me feel better. You know what I'm saying? So it was just nice to like be in that position. And then I feel like that was definitely a determining factor for like running, was because after I know that I've like solidified myself as a student leader, I feel like I could take on more leadership responsibility. So, yeah.
Do you have any, before we get into the campaign, because we're basically almost there in the timeline.
Yeah.
Two things. One, as far as like student government has there been anything like notable so far, like in the fall or the spring?
Student government related, I feel like it was definitely cool being able to be that like liaison between agencies and student government and working with like the WGEC and Senate and figuring out that relationship. At first it was a bit murky because I was like, I think I talked to Nate Ostick about it when he was director of integrity, but I was like, what does that even look like? Like, can I vote? Like, how do I advocate for them? But also like let people know that I'm biased. Like, am I allowed to speak? Like, it was a really weird time like figuring that out. But once I realized that like you should just say it, and like if like they say it's biased, like okay, but like it's better to like advocate than like say nothing. But yeah, I really wanted to focus my time on like strengthening that relationship. And I think my first semester I was really focused on like helping the WGEC more than being a senator. And I feel like this year I've tried to solidify myself as a senator and like passing resolutions and like trying to be more involved. I think I've I wouldn't say sponsored, like sponsored / authored / reviewed at least like 5-ish resolutions. I'm not too sure. That number could be way off. I could be lying. I'm not too sure. But one thing that I thought was really cool that I did my fall semester of this year, or yeah, this year I guess, was like being a part of like that homecoming incident and then writing that resolution to like, I don't know, like stand with the student who was like left out of those pictures. And then also getting to interact with administration. Like, I think that was my first time where I actually got to sit down with administration, like actually voice my concerns as a student, but also as a representative, right? And I feel like that holds a lot of weight, and like understanding that senators have power, right? Like, you also probably didn't even realize it, right? But senators do have power. If you think about it, senators are the only voting members of the student body. And so we have the change to like, or we have the power to make change. And I think that was the thing where it was like, I can like actually use this to my advantage. And then I remember like the director of DEIA, Keith, he's like one of my close friends. And so he was like talking to me about like all these initiatives that we should do and like how he wants to do it and things like that. And it's like, that's like so cool. And like the fact that I can like actually do that, and like I have the power to like actually do that versus like other students where they have to like talk to student government and then get those things. I think that was like a really that was the opportunity that I like didn't even know I had. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it in the beginning, but I'm also a senator representing the College of IST. I'm not the best senator, but I might talk about that in another podcast where I talk about like some of the lessons that I'm currently learning about myself and then this experience.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I definitely have learned a lot from like the fall semester to now about how much power we have and like what type of change we actually can make on the campus.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be like uplifting certain voices that need to be uplifted, amplifying voices, uplifting events that are happening that are like down here that should be up here, or just like creating resolutions to move money around and whatnot. But when I first started, I didn't really know about any of that stuff besides the initial orientation, which didn't really give me everything. But I know your guys' platform. We'll probably talk about some of that stuff. But the second thing, SABC. I'll preface this by saying, don't state. I don't really know what we're allowed to talk about regarding SABC.
Okay.
So don't state anything regarding numbers or what is going to be presented
we'll keep it
a few days.
Yeah.
Just keep it high level of like what that overall experience was like.
Okay. So.
And also, like, what does SABC stand for?
Okay, so SABC stands for Student Activities Budget Commission, and I was one of the commissioners, a Senate commissioner. And at first, as you know, I didn't apply and I didn't want to be appointed. And then there was a position opened up thanks to Jack Cosgrove. And so I finally applied. And the appointment process, I feel like, was one of the weirdest appointments I've ever had. I didn't expect to be asked questions. And so I came into it very unprepared. And then, regardless of what my answers were, I guess it got me appointed. But, I just want to say that the appointment process was very humbling, regardless of, like, I don't even remember what I said, but I think I definitely said some things I probably shouldn't have said. But anyways, besides the point, I get through the appointment process, and that's when I realized that, like, what I'm going to do or I'm about to do, like, holds weight. Like, it actually holds so much weight. And then when we were talking about the numbers and things like that during that entire process, it really does show, like, how much this is going to impact students, agencies, the Gateway, MapPro, student government. And I just wanted to, like, I just know, like, how much power it holds, and only being, like, one of, like, I think 12 or something, that it really, like, it truly does matter. And so going into that process, I think during presentations and then the final deliberation, I wanted to make my voice heard and, like, actually speak and, like, stand up for students, and especially, like, students who I felt like may not have the representation they deserve during, like, the entire commission process. So, yeah, and I feel like it was just a really nice feeling to be able to be in that, I wouldn't say position of power, but that leadership position, to be able to, like, actively make change. Like, it's actively gonna either help organizations or the opposite. But I think that was the cool thing, was being able to work with students and then, or other commissioners, I would say, and finalizing it and then reaching consensus. And then I think going into it, I'll probably touch on this, but I was really biased in the fact that I had already been with MapPro, and then I was involved in the WGEC, and those are two of the organizations that would be presenting. And so it was a really interesting standpoint, because that was the first time I ever felt like work and school, like, connecting. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, I work in training, and a lot of the training we do is, like, really focused on, like, being more inclusive with your language and reducing your unconscious bias and, like, opening yourself up to collaboration. So the fact that I was able to use that during SABC was so cool, and I've never felt like, I told my boss about this, and she's like, wow, go you, making connections. And I was like, yeah, I know. But yeah, it was, like, a fun process. I want to do it again. I don't know. You should do it if you're senator next year.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Is it just students that sit on that board?
Yeah,
Or
so
is there
it's,
faculty?
I think, 3 student senators, 3 students that are appointed through Senate, and then 3 students or students at large or whatever. So 9 students and then 3 faculty members. So
Okay.
that's like the makeup. So it's fun to like meet a lot of people. I know everyone's last name. I didn't get their first names, which is on me. I probably should have like asked, but yeah.
You live and you learn.
Yeah.
You'll ask for first names on the first day next time.
Yeah, no, that was really bad. Like, I'll reference them, or like we'll be not talking about SABC, but just kind of like, I really like that point that like that person made. I'll use their last name, and it's like, whoever refers to people by their last names. But for those 9 other people in the room, I got their last names.
Yeah. The only other time when I've like referred to people as their last name and it was like the thing that you do was in sports. And that was it. Like people
Yeah.
were like Sims, or like whatever.
Yeah.
Like you don't really know their first name
Mm-hmm.
unless you go to school with them.
Yeah,
Or you
no, it
just
was
talk
really
with them.
weird. Or like, do you ever get those emails from like students and they'll like say like Senator Sims or like Senator Adidam?
You see, the thing about IS&T, and this is another thing that I need to reflect upon, and
Yeah.
I most definitely could have done better, is they're very hands-off
Yeah.
and very focused on their studies and not really too focused on student involvement.
Mm-hmm.
So in situations when people from like the College of Arts and Science,
Bro, no,
they
they
probably
get
got loads of emails,
bombarded.
and I get 0. So
No, don't worry. It's only happened to
Yeah.
me once. So I
Yeah.
also get like 0 input,
Yeah.
which is definitely a fault of my own. But we'll talk about that in our campaign because I have a cool plan.
yeah, so yeah, that was a problem that I don't blame anyone else
Yeah.
but myself.
No, I
because-
don't think it should be like put on you individually. I think it's more of like a systemic issue because like if I'm feeling it, I know Kaden probably feels it, and then I know like other colleges feel it, right? So it's definitely not on like a single person. I think it's more of like the way that we were brought into being a senator, and I know you were appointed, so you didn't even run, right?
Yeah.
So that process is very different than like running. And so I just think that like I don't think it's anyone's fault. I just think that it needs to be restructured for the future. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so section 2. So let's start diving into the campaign part. So how did this begin? Like, did Robert reach out to you, or like how did this like start?
Yeah, so he actually reached out to me before we went on winter break. And he was like, "Hey, I'd really love to have you on my campaign. I'm planning on running." And I was like, "Ooh, I don't know. Let me think about it." Because at the time, I was just like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm very much a people pleaser. And so the fact that, like, I would be put on, like, this, not pedestal, but, like, this level where I would be, like, almost representing the student body just seemed a bit daunting. And, like, obviously we can't make everyone happy. But over winter break, I talked to, like, my family about it. And they were like, you should do it. Like, I don't know why you are so scared to, like, take that jump. And I really wanted to, like, work more. I knew I wanted to stay in student government. I just didn't know what that would look like. And I was like, what if I'm just a CBA senator again? Like, I think that would be really good. But then at the same time, like, I've known Robert for my entire, like, collegiate life. I was a freshman ambassador. I actually was on his committee. And so we worked, like, in that way when he was a senator. And then we were in Mav Pro together. And so I knew if I was going to run with someone, it would be him, just because we have very similar ideas. And I feel like he's very much like a leader on campus. And so that was kind of my reason for joining his campaign. And then next year, I honestly didn't even know what that was gonna, or next year if I want to run, like, I didn't even know, like, who I would even run with, or, like, what that process would look like. But at the same time, like, I didn't even know what this process would look like, so I can't even, that's not even, like, a justification. But I knew that it's almost now or never, right? Like, just do it, and then whatever happens, happens. And I'm so grateful to be in this position where, like, I'm friends with a lot of, or the executive ticket from the other campaign. So regardless, for me, I feel like I'll be okay with the results, right? Like, I'm not going to hold any animosity. Like, I really respect them, and whatever happens, happens. And then, yeah, so I kind of realized that, like, if I didn't really care about the results, like, why not just do it? And so I do care about the results. I do care about the results. I care about the results, but I feel like it could have been, like, a way worse situation.
Yeah.
It could have been, like, a lot more controversial, or like a lot more conflict. And I feel like, knock on wood, this election cycle is going pretty well.
Yeah.
I care if we win, okay, guys? Like, I want us to win. Okay. I just had to clear that up.
Yeah. I wasn't really in tune with any of the SGA stuff that was happening last year, so I don't really, like, this is my first time seeing the whole election process. So, yeah, I'm just going to assume that last year was also kind of smooth.
No. It was, okay, it was, I feel like this year is going a lot better than last year, and we don't have to get into that unless other candidates want to, but I personally will not, but, yeah.
We don't have to get into it.
Yeah.
Drama is not really too good on, well, depending on what you're trying to do, but we won't talk about that here. So Robert, which I don't know if we talked about, Robert is going to be running for the presidential slot.
Regent, yeah.
And who is going to be your third?
Yeah, so the reason Cecily got roped into this was because we were looking for a third candidate. And then we were going through, like, a list of people, and it just didn't seem like the list of people that we were going for really didn't fit the vibe. And we really wanted, like, a student who would bring that outside perspective into our campaign, because me and Robert are both very heavily involved, or I'm very much heavily involved in student government. He was very heavily involved last year, and then runs an organization that works kind of semi-closely with student government. And so we really wanted that, like, person who would, like, almost keep us in check almost. And, like, you know, because, like, sometimes I feel like as senators we have this idea of, like, what we want for this campus, but then we need to realize that, like, probably no one else wants this. So, like, that person who's, like, kind of that, like, a voice of reason. It's like, hey, maybe we should focus more on this or this and not get too much involved in, like, what we want to do or, like, what we think is best. And so I think Robert reached out to Cecily because she was involved in MavPro, or Cecily was like, I want to, like, figure out some way I can incorporate student government into my, like, time at UNO. And then Robert's like, I actually have this great idea for you. I was like, and then she was like, oh my gosh, I'm in. And then I knew Cecily through MavPro, so it was really cool, like, seeing her take on, because she was definitely, I think she was on, like, our committee to plan, like, the fall festival or whatever, and she was, like, almost, she worked so hard on that, and I know she did, and she definitely did a lot of the work, and you can definitely see her as a leader on campus, so it was really cool. And then as our chief of staff candidate, she's also really, like, good at, like, photos and marketing, and, like, a great speaker, and I think it just clicked, right? So that was the biggest thing we were looking for, and then when it clicked, we were like, this is a solid ticket, and we were both really happy in the fact that it did end up clicking.
Cool. Yeah, one thing I noticed when I was looking into your guys' is, like, background to do some research. I noticed all of you guys were from MavPro.
Yeah.
So I haven't really done too much diving into the other ticket, but it will be interesting to see if, like, they have, like, some sort of previous club affiliation or something.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I know. Yeah, all of them are in SGA, so.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's anything else besides that.
Well, I know Hakeem and Ali are both WGEC ambassadors, so they definitely went through that. And then I think Sustain UNO also works with, like, the WGEC in, like, some sort of capacity. But they can probably go more into that. I don't know why I'm talking about them. I'm probably like spreading rumors.
I'll probably talk with them about that.
Yeah. Maybe.
But yeah, so cool. So you have your 3 people. At what point, when did you guys have like the 3 people?
It was definitely a couple weeks before. I wouldn't say like way before or like way, I don't know. I think maybe February, and then I think we had to apply in March or something, right? So we definitely had a 3-week buffer from when we had our candidates and then when we had our actual like ticket like apply. But I just think it was really cool that we all like knew each other before. But yeah.
What type of planning did you guys do before like applying officially?
Yeah, so before we just kind of threw out like general ideas, and then we all met and we had this like really like long meeting. I think it was like 5 hours or something. We were just stuck in the student involvement conference center, and it was literally going through every single detail of our campaign. And definitely a grueling process. Wouldn't recommend everyone to just do it in one go, but that was kind of the way it happened. And yeah, we just sat down. We threw out a couple names, and I think one of the names Robert like picked out, and I will say Robert has definitely done the most on like solidifying this campaign. But yeah, he just threw out a couple names, and then I really liked Energize. I don't know, I just felt like it kind of stuck with me personally. There was really no other reason. I just really gravitated towards it.
Yeah.
And then I think what really solidified it for all of us is when we were looking at our 3 pillars, because we knew we want to have like something that people could recognize with it and like be able to follow and understand. Like Energize, what do you think of? Prioritize, harmonize, maximize, right? And then that was kind of the foundation. And then once we had those 4 things, it was like, how do we flesh those out? So like, what does prioritize look like? What does harmonize look like? What does maximize look like? And then colors. Colors was fun. I think Cecily was like, I think we should do blue and orange. And I was like, for sure. Like, I love blue and orange. So, yeah. And then what else? Then after discussing, like, I guess the foundations, it was mainly just figuring out as we go. And then I know Robert had a couple of things, like, he wanted to see on campus. And I feel like since he instigated, like, all of this, like, running and, like, forming a team, he had, like, ideas and initiatives he wanted to bring in.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just kind of based it around that. And I feel like I really resonated a lot with, like, his ideas. And then especially with, like, the Harmonize point of, like, bridging together the 2 campuses. I feel like both of us can relate to that in the sense that we are on Scott campus, and I live on Scott campus too, so it's definitely very much disconnected from Dodge campus. And I really like the career closet in the sense where I'm a business student and I intern at a company, so it's business, casual, or professional every single day. Or not every single day, just Tuesdays and Thursdays and Fridays. But having that attire, and then I know, like, I come from, like, I'm very privileged in the fact that I can afford it, and I know a lot of people don't have that same luxury, so being able to provide it for them is something that I really resonated with. And then the Work It Off program, I think that's being started by...
Anytime now.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. But yeah, I think that's being currently started by, like, Navia, Ben, Tu, and Jack. And then I know there's only like a month and a half left in the semester. So we wanted to make sure that, like, if they want to work on it, like, we would support them and help them, or maybe find some sort of ways to, like, get administration on board. And I feel like we could really use that connection between SGA senators and the executive team. So we really wanted to champion that idea and just increase collaboration. And I think that's where we get into, like, the disconnect between, like, senators, constituents, senators, administration, and, like, senators and execs. So really, I think just the ideas that he had and, like, solidifying those connections is something that I really loved and want to be a part of.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack. But first, I think it's good for us to define, or I guess you to define, you're going for the vice president role.
Yeah.
What does that role encompass? Like, what would you be doing?
Yeah, so the reason I wanted to, like, specifically go for the vice president role, I think when me and Robert were talking in, like, December, he was like, you can kind of choose what role you wanted. And I feel like with the more vice president role, you're, like, more student-facing. And I really loved, like, speaking with students. I think I told you this today, but I spoke with, like, our coalition spoke with, like, 3 student organizations today.
Yeah.
And that's been happening for, like, the past 2 to 3 weeks. But you know what? I feel really, like, energized after it, right? And so I really want to be in a student-facing role. And I feel like since I know how, like, senators function and know how, like, Senate works, I think I could really aid myself and, like, or see myself, like, helping senators, like, reach their fullest potential in those roles and, like, creating a more, like, engaged student government and engaged student body. That was kind of my main reason, but other reasons is just I really loved being in Senate, right? I really loved having that connection with, like, my fellow senators, and I feel like that student government or student body vice president role really aids itself into working with senators and working to achieve a better UNO. And then it kind of, like, the other reason, like, Cecily kind of worked out or, like, it kind of clicked was because she's very, like, leader-oriented and very manager-oriented. And then one thing we really want to work on this year was, like, creating a more sound executive team with, like, the board of directors. And I've seen her, like, work as a leader. I've seen her work as, like, a manager of some sort. So I definitely see her being a great chief of staff. And so once we kind of figured out that, like, she was chief of staff, I was like, I'm so up for being student body vice president because I see myself working with students. I see myself meeting with organizations. I see myself connecting myself to the student body and being more present on campus. And that's kind of my reasoning.
So based on my experience, right now, Veronica is the VP and she's doing a tremendous job.
Mm-hmm.
You're twofold. So you work with, like, the constituents or, like, the regular students, but you're also basically in charge of, like, you're the Speaker of the House, basically.
Yeah.
Like, you're in charge of all the Senate, a lot of the Senate stuff. So I know that's involved in some of your initiatives, so we'll get into some of that stuff. But yeah, I think the role is cool that you get to do, like, both sides.
I agree. And I think, like, I'm definitely not a professional at Robert's Rules. And I think if you, like, if the Senate meetings were recorded, or you know what, like, go check the SABC tapes. Because there's been multiple times where I've, like, messed it up. You know what I'm saying? But I think it'll be fun to, like, learn and to actually be good at it. Like, I'm excited for that. And I think, like, if I do get that opportunity, it'll just be fun to, like, be the Speaker of the House and to, like, create a more sound student government in that aspect. But Veronica has done, like, such a great job. Like, filling her shoes would definitely be hard for, like, either me or Nate. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff to deal with. So, okay. So we talked about what type of prep you guys did before, coming up with, like, your pillars. You have the 3 different things that you guys are, like, pushing, prioritize, maximize, and harmonize. I was gonna say execute, but, like, it's not that. So yeah, so you came up with all that different stuff, and then you guys eventually applied. Yeah, and then now you guys are, like, an official thing, doing your thing. Like, you guys had the debate. You guys are going around talking with all sorts of student agencies or student organizations, talking with other people, campaigning. So you already said that you like it so far, but, like, you also said that this has been really, like, it's been a learning experience. So, like, what are some of the different things that you've been learning so far?
I think it's just, like, being more student-facing. Like, I guess being a senator really aids itself into being a student-facing position, but in reality, like, is it really? So I think when you're put on a campaign, you have to be more, like, actively engaged and, like, meeting with people. And what I've learned a lot is that, like, people are invested in student government. It's just that they don't get the opportunity to express their engagement or to express their, like, concerns and things like that. And especially with meeting, like, senators, like, the senators who are running and, like, what they want to see in student government. And then also meeting with orgs and seeing, like, what they want to see as, like, student government and what we can do for them as an organization has been really insightful because we wouldn't meet with them unless they wanted to, right? So it's like a 2-way relationship. And so the fact that they want to meet with us and they are invested into what student government can do for them is, I think, something that hasn't really been, like, tapped in. And then knowing that and, like, being in that student-facing position, and I just think it's, like, aided in, like, a lot of growth and learning and figuring out, like, how I can best, like aid myself into this role, or, like, help be the best vice president I can be. So whether that is, like, getting more organizations to come and speak during our circuit meetings, or looking at ways to, like, professionally develop our senators, I want to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can do to, like, get student organizations and student body members more connected with their, like, student government, because that's something that they want. And so I think if they want it, then it's clearly, like, an issue that student government is currently facing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's dive into your guys' platform, I guess. And this will be interesting because I'm talking to, well,
yeah,
potentially I'll be talking to all three of you
Yeah.
guys, hopefully. So I don't want to, like, have anything repeat, but there's definitely going to be some repeat. So I want to, like, hit these from your individual perspective.
Yeah.
So let me switch here. So you guys have the prioritize, harmonize, maximize. And then on your guys' social media, which is cool. You guys are doing cool stuff there.
Don't you like the grid? The grid was cool. The grid was cool.
Yeah. It's very neat. Very neat. Okay, so projects and initiatives, there were 5 of them. We don't have to go into all of them. I don't know if you have them all memorized. You mentioned 2 of them, the campus career closet and then the work it off program.
Yeah.
So yeah, given those, like, different projects and then the 3 different prioritize, harmonize, maximize, what, like, you could just talk about, like, the different stuff that's, I guess, relevant to your position and, like, what you're more passionate about.
Yeah, so I guess we can just kind of go in order with prioritize, harmonize, and maximize. So, like, starting off with prioritize, like, prioritizing the students of today. I feel like a lot of campus initiatives, or a lot of things that, like, I see in resolutions are very, like, theoretical almost. I don't know if you also see this, but it's like, we should totally do this. Like, let's start doing this. And it's like, okay, like, we can start, but what, like, do we have a plan? Like, how are we going to actually make that attainable? And so I think one thing I really want to do as student body vice president is to, like, lead senators, especially, like, the first year senators, like, senators who are new to being a senator, like, help them figure out, like, what student government can actually do. Because once you realize, like, what we can do as senators, like, it makes goals, like, very attainable. So yeah, I just think that prioritizing the students of today and, like, prioritizing initiatives that can actually happen within the year. So between, like, August 2023 and 2024, can we see that, like, idea come into fruition? And I think that's something that we clearly lack, because everyone in student government is passionate, but it's, like, channeling that passion into, like, actual results, I think, is really challenging. Like, I've definitely struggled with it. There's been so many resolutions I've sponsored where it's like, we should totally do this, and then it never, ever, ever, like, happens. And so I've learned from my mistakes, and I want to ensure that other people are on the right track to, like, also do the best they can in their roles. Moving on to Harmonize, I also touched on this, but I'm from the College of Business, so I have all my classes on Scott campus, but then all my student involvement is on Dodge campus. And I feel like Scott campus is very dry in the aspect where, like, the only organizations I see meet on Scott campus, or especially, like, in the College of Business, are the business organizations, right? So, and the business organizations don't have great visibility outside of Mammal Hall. So making sure that there's, like, equal growth, and I know Scott campus does do a lot of activities, like, with their dorms and, like, having more events there, but I think we need to find a way to, like, join both campuses together, because in reality, it's, like, a 10-minute shuttle ride, a 5-minute car ride, and, like, a 30-minute walk maybe, right? And it's not bad, right? So just making sure that both campuses feel connected, and that students don't see, like, Scott campus or Dodge campus as, like, a hindrance to, like, becoming involved. The last point, maximize. I think I learned a lot about this just being in SABC, but just knowing that, like, student government, like, has student fees, right? Like, it literally runs on student fees. It runs on what we pay to attend UNO. And I think that holds a lot of weight, especially since we're all contributing like what, $25 into this, we need
Yeah.
to be more aware of like what we have and like maximizing student potential. So whether that is utilizing the writing lab if you're struggling with your essay, getting help on calculus, um, working at the CAB lab or the creative production lab. That's not called a CAB lab. I don't know why I said that. Is it just called the creative production lab?
You just gave it a new name.
Yeah. The CAB lab is something in CBA, but it's like not even related to, oh my gosh. Anyways. And then just like making sure students know what they have access to, right? I mean, the B cycle Heartland bypass that we like passed this year, it really does benefit students. And I feel like the passes ran out. Well, we only got 200, but I got a lot of people asking me or like DMing me or just like, you know, texting me like, hey, I didn't even know we had this. And by the time I like want to apply, like it was too late. And it's like, that's valid. We only had 200 passes, but like students should have the right to know like what they have access to and what they are funding. I think one way you could do that is like through our social media presence and making it more engaging. I think Robert will probably touch on this, but like if you scroll back, the last face you see on the student government's page is Robert's face. And he's not even in student government this year, so it's kind of weird, right? And so we just want to create it, like make it more fun and engaging. And I feel like if we make it more engaging and more fun, people will want to attend meetings and attend our events and attend our agency's events, and just making sure that like people are getting their money's worth. And another way we want to do this is like, I think the CAPS, like counseling and psychological services, like they're currently understaffed and they're like always at full capacity. And I feel like mental health is a right, or like having access to mental health resources is a right. So just creating different avenues for mental health resources, or just letting students know that CAPS isn't the only solution and that we do have other mental health resources. I was on the mental health circuit last semester. Didn't really do well. We had an event, but it was anyways. But I think one thing I really learned was just like the amount of mental health resources I had, especially from like Adrian and Kevin, who directly work with mental health at UNO or like some sort of like counseling services. It was really cool because they had so much insight into like what resources we had, and I was like, I thought it was only CAPS, so this is kind of embarrassing for me. The fact that like I'm a senator and I don't even know what resources we have is kind of problematic, and if I don't know, then I can guarantee you that no one else in the student body knows unless they like work directly with those resources. So just ensuring that everyone has access or knows that they have access to these things, especially if they're getting funded by student money. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those were kind of the 3 points. What else did you...
So diving deeper into those.
Yeah.
So you talked about the how. So one thing I want to talk about is like how you plan to implement it, because that's one way that you guys can get under attack. Is like, okay, you have all these grandiose ideas, but how are you actually going to do it? So you explain the how for the maximize through the social media and all that fun, all that stuff. And you guys also talked about that in the debate. So if people want to know about that, I'll probably link to that debate in the description of this fine YouTube video. But
also, if you guys watch the debate, I'm so sorry about my posture. I am working on it. Heads up. You can probably only see like my chin up, but it's okay. Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah.
Okay. So with prioritize and harmonize, can you talk? So with the prioritize, you were talking about like building the leaders within student government. How do you plan to do that? Yeah, so one of the really cool things about student government, or like what student government looks like now, is that half our meetings are Senate meetings and the other half is circuit meetings. And I think what we've seen a lot, like especially this semester, is how circuit can be used for professional development, right? And we've definitely seen a spike after our resolution writing workshop, like an abundance of resolutions go through. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And if we had that in the fall, imagine how much more productive student government would be in like actually creating change. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So hosting those earlier and like ensuring that senators know how to like reach their constituents. We all end up in our roles in different ways. Like I was elected, I guess. You were appointed. And the orientation process is like essentially the same. It's almost like
Do you know what you have to do? Yes. Okay. But, like, other than that, like, how do we fulfill those roles, right? Like, how do we actually connect with our constituents? And I think we mentioned this in the debate, but the importance of, like, unconscious bias training or implicit bias training is something that I could see really helping, like, senators and, like, actually making educated decisions based on their college. I know for a fact that I do not hold the same viewpoint as a lot of my constituents at CBA. There's like 1,000 of them. Actually, there's probably like so much more, but I don't even know. Okay, anyways.
There's definitely
But like
more than 1,000.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out. Okay, anyways, besides the point, there's obviously a lot of College of Business students, and me and Kaden can't be the only people representing them and all their beliefs, right? So we have to look at things from an objective viewpoint, but how do we do that? And I think training senators, especially like during our retreat or having that Gallup strengths assessment like in August instead of in January, I think can really aid in like developing senators to like tap into their like leadership potential and tap into like how they become more involved as students. Another thing we really want to do with prioritizing students is like prioritizing specifically multicultural students and marginalized students and having them meet with like student government during circuit or senate meetings before to talk about their organization and how student government can help them or what we can do as senators to support these organizations or how to get involved or how to get our constituents involved, right? So just making sure that like if we are putting that effort to engage with others, they will hopefully engage with us back. And if they aren't, then like what can we be doing more? Like is it just like marketing? Like are we not reaching out to enough organizations? How do we reach out to them? Like is there a specific way that they want to be contacted and things like that? I think I already mentioned this, but we've been meeting with so many organizations in these past 3 weeks. And so they clearly do want to be contacted, right? And so they know that they have stake in these elections. So I think it's important that they continue to keep up that engagement throughout the year instead of in these 3 weeks. With Harmonize, I think one way we really want to do this is like having more student government programming events, but also having more like student agency programming events on Scott campus. I think that there isn't really a lot of programming events happening through student government. The last event I think we had was a Spill the Tea with Cass event, which was last week in Ash. And then the other one was, I think, the mental health panel that my circuit put on in Dodge. And it was not like, I don't know about the Ash one, but I know for a fact that the mental health panel that we posted or like hosted was like not successful. But I've had the opportunity to like host successful events through MavPro, through ISA, and through the WGEC. And so I know what it takes to host a successful event, but I just think that the way it was marketed doesn't really reach the current students. So once again, just like revamping that social media presence, engaging with students, and like I think the most important thing is like actively engaging with students. It's like one thing to send out an email, but like if they don't respond, like reaching back out or like talking to people in MCA or talking with people in like Thompson Learning Center and things like that. Just making sure you're putting in that effort, and then hosting more events on Dodge campus, like talking with Scott campus to see if there's anything that we can do to like host them. I know a couple years ago there was like coffee with senators and Stedman's, and then in Maverick Landing and like the dorms. I think that would be really fun to bring back. Just having your presence there, I think, is really vital to increase student engagement and to make sure that people, do head on over to Scott campus.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Right. So you guys have the 5 different projects and initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the first 2 on the list. Campus Career Closet and then the Work It Off program. Did you want to talk about those any further than you already did?
I feel like I hit it, but
I will say the Work It Off program, you didn't describe what it is. You just mentioned that you've been, or like some people are working on it.
So essentially what it is that students would have the ability to pay off their parking services or parking tickets with community service. I know a couple of senators, as I mentioned, Navia, Ben, Tu and Jack have been championing that idea this year, but I think it definitely needs to be worked on next year. And so helping them and like empowering them to continue it and to find ways to like get administration into it. And it's not like a novel idea. A lot of people are like, this isn't feasible, but the student government of Arkansas University has done it. And so it's definitely something that has been done on other campuses. We just have to find a way to like make it more equitable. And like obviously compromises will have to be made on like how it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's something that I could see happening to some sort of extent. You know what I'm saying? Like it may not be like 100% like if you do community service, like you'll work off your tickets, but it could be a compromise where it's like you can work up to maybe 10 hours of community service to get $10 off your parking ticket or something like that. But I definitely see it as a possibility, and I think it is something attainable. I don't want to step on Robert's toes here, but he has worked on the parking committee for 2 years, so he's very familiar with how parking works. And when he was explaining this process, he can probably explain it too better than I am. But he says that they really do want to make like parking more accessible, but it's like how do we create money while also doing that? And so I think it's just working with them to kind of figure out a solution. Another thing we can kind of talk about is like the More Art on Campus initiative. That was just kind of a fun one. I like fun things, right? I think it's fun to have more art on campus. I love brick buildings, don't get me wrong, but
they're very safe.
Yeah, I think if we just throw like a splash of pink on Chris Library or, you know, a mural or something, you know, like it doesn't have to be like silly, but it can be realistic and we can have like fun buildings that, you know, represent student culture on campus. And we do have a great arts program. We do have really talented students on campus who are amazing in art, and just being able to support them and to elevate them, like their work and their art, and to create more engagement for them, I think could really help them, but also help campus as a whole become a more friendlier place. I wouldn't say it's unfriendly right now, but just a more fun, happy place.
How would you guys go about like doing that?
I think one way is that like I wouldn't say like maybe on outsides of buildings, but we could have like a fun art gallery inside of Chris Library. I know they do like a lot of showcases, I guess. I know for WGEC in October we do like the clothesline project, which is where we showcase like a bunch of shirts, like telling students or like stories about like sexual assault and sexual violence. And I know they have done it with like a couple of other organizations, but especially that first place or like on the first floor, there's like that open space between like the study rooms and then a glass windowed area. I don't know. Yeah, so there's definitely space to like highlight student art in that way. But also like inside a building, so if we could just get more art up. I know there's a lot of like retired works of art that just sit in like the arts building. So if we're able to utilize those and maybe hang them up in other places, like empty spaces on walls, I feel like could really just brighten up buildings. But yeah, I don't know if like the outdoor art would be like very feasible. But I feel like indoor art is very feasible and could definitely brighten up places, or have students commission works of art. I think could be really fun.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what other projects or initiatives?
Yeah, so as I kind of touched on, like working with senators and like having student government constituents, I guess, like student body, know their senators. Every single time we like go to a student organization, we always ask them, how many of you guys know your senators? Every single time it's been 0 people. Like 0 people know their senators, which is so valid. I'm also a part of the problem as a CPA senator. But I think, as I mentioned before, it's just about increasing that engagement and then working with senators to find out ways that they can tap into their leadership potential, to meet with them, to figure out like how to best connect with them. But yeah. And then, yeah, I don't want to be too repetitive, but like I feel like Robert and Cecily could probably handle like a couple of the other initiatives, because I don't want it to like, or this section to just sound like the exact same thing over and over again. Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, I will say regarding like senators reaching out and engaging, well, specifically like student organizations within like their domain, I didn't do that at all until I was constructing this resolution with Nate for like restructuring how reserves are allocated.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to dive deeper into how reserves are allocated.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, the clubs within the College of IS&T could definitely like just make a resolution and get some money.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, it's so weird because, like, I was speaking with a couple of the future senators or senators who are running, and a lot of them were like, the reason I've gotten to student government is because I've always, like, wanted to make change on campus, but, like, I just always felt there was a roadblock because I didn't know who my senators were, and if I reached out to them, they probably wouldn't even know who I was, and they'd probably disregard it, which is, like, okay, but, like, that shouldn't be happening. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, clearly students care, and so we should just try and elevate them. Like, they shouldn't have to be senators in order to make change on campus.
Yeah, very true. So, okay, so those are project initiatives. You talked about the three main pillars: prioritize, harmonize, maximize. You guys' biggest goals, there were two that I wrote down. There might be more. The first one was like create a more inclusive culture on campus.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second main goal was to bridge the gap between the Dodge and Scott campus.
Yeah.
So I think you talked about how you would basically be doing that through our previous discussions. So we don't really need to dive into those unless you want to.
I feel like we hit everything.
Okay, cool.
I'll probably just be, like, repeating stuff. I feel like if I listen to this back, it'll literally just be, like, the exact same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, a literal loop. But you know what? That's fine. I'm okay with that.
That's also on me.
Yeah.
To make sure
no,
that
you've been,
no,
like, literally, this has been such a
repetition.
good conversation.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's just reference stuff. Actually, yeah, this isn't necessarily important. This is just stuff about, like, actually what the vice president does. That's why I had to define it. But I won't really go into the actual what's in the bylaws or whatever official document I had in here.
Okay.
But there's a lot of different stuff, but you summed it up in a good term, in a good way.
I feel like definitely being in rules committee really helps because, like, that my spring break was literally going over the policy index and bylaws and, like, annotating it. And so the amount of times I've, like, stared at, like, the policy index, I think it's, like, my third most viewed document ever. Like, it's kind of insane.
Yeah, well, you learn a lot because I didn't really dive into it either until there was, like, a resolution that was asking for an ungodly amount of money. And I was like, let me look into if this is doable and, like, what this will do and our budget and all that different stuff. So I just went in a rabbit hole of reading the bylines.
No, it's, like, genuinely, like, I think the first 20 pages, it's like, what am I doing? Like, this is literally my, like, vacation. Like, I'm currently in New York City, and I'm sitting in a room reading the bylaws. But I think page 21, like, I'm into it. Like, I'm invested. I'm like, oh, my gosh, what the heck? Like, I didn't know we could do that. Wow.
Yeah, I will say, so for anyone that is listening and is either a current senator or will be a senator, it's bylaws, and then there's another document.
Policy
index. Those two things. They're not that thick. Like,
yeah, it's only like 70 pages each, but it's like all bullet points. So if you take out like the spacing and everything, I think it's probably 20 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a lot. There's a lot of spacing and whatnot. But
yeah.
I would recommend strongly, and you probably would, to read through those.
Yeah.
Even though it might feel like a pain in the front, but like you will better understand like 1,000,000,000% like what you're capable of doing and what you can't do and how to better do what you want to do and why you got into the position.
I agree. As I said, page 21, bylaws. It gets fun. It gets funky. It's nice.
Yeah, like some of it is like how you can do what you want to do and how to like navigate your problems. Some of it is like understanding your role. Exactly, like, okay, I need to attend this many things and this is my role. And some of it is like understanding the procedural roles of like, I'm able to speak twice during this discussion and then I can't, or so like stuff like that. So it's really empowering.
Also, I think I want to add, maybe to go along with that, like prioritize, maybe Maximize, or maybe Harmonize. You know what? Everything. Just the importance of ambassadors and affiliates. I didn't, like, low-key, even being rules committee chair, had no idea what they were in the nicest way possible. I know we have WGEC ambassadors and sustainability affiliates, but, like, regardless of, like, their position title, like, what do they do? And I think it's so important that every student organization has the opportunity to be represented on campus. Like, every single RSO or, like, student organization has the opportunity to have stake in student government and sit in on Senate meetings and actually voice their concerns. And I think a lot of student organizations want to take a part in this and actually be represented in student government, but just don't know that they can. And that's something we really want to touch on, and making sure that all our ambassador positions are filled with at least one representative from an agency, and ensuring that all agencies, like, they have representation in student government meetings. Like, they are governed by student government, so they should have say in, like, what we as senators do. I think that's really important.
So, just to help define this, so agencies are basically, they're student organizations, but they're very closely tied to SGA, and they get funding from SGA.
Yeah.
So that's
and
what
they
makes
represent, like, marginalized groups.
Yeah. And individuals within those agencies can become agency ambassadors.
Yes, and sit in student government Senate meetings and speak, and I don't think they can vote, but I think they can write resolutions and motion things. Yeah. So even though they can't vote, it's basically being on the same level as, like, someone on the executive team in regards to, like, what you can do. Like, you can speak. And I think that's really important, because I know I get in my head a lot during meetings when you hear the same people over and over again say their things, right? And so having more people and, like, having those open conversations, I think, need to happen outside of student government, but it's so important that they happen inside of student government as well through those positions.
Yes. And then the second thing, so you have ambassador and then affiliates. Affiliates, that's, you see, I don't even truly know.
Yeah.
But I think affiliates can be
so
any
they're
student?
From, like, student organizations. Okay. Or any student. Yeah, I guess, right? Like, any student can technically be an affiliate, but I think there's tied to, like, a certain initiative or program or something on campus. So we have a couple of sustainability initiatives, or I don't know if they're SustainUNO affiliates or if they're just sustainability or affiliates, but yeah, they can also speak. They can also have their voices heard at meetings, and I think that's really valuable for, like, RSOs or tier 2 organizations, or I guess, like, any other student organization on campus.
Cool.
Yeah.
So is there anything else regarding your guys' like campaign or platform that you feel like you'd want to speak about?
I honestly feel like we hit it pretty well. If I missed anything, they'll probably go over it. So, yeah.
Yeah. They won't be able to see this. So hopefully you remember this conversation and what we're currently talking about, and you just, like, talk with them and be like, hey, guys, I hit A, B, and C.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
or
cool.
You know what? Yeah.
Because all of these videos are being released at the same time.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. I didn't know if I told. I've been talking to this about a bunch of different people, so I don't know, like, what I told. But all of these will be released at the same time, so then there's no advantage. Like, you're first. I put it up first, and then
we actually did talk about this.
See, like, oh yeah, this is what she said. I'm gonna say this in mine because it's what she said. So it'll be fair. Like, everyone will go in, like, blind, basically. Yeah. So I think that's the first way of doing it.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, you can communicate with your team.
Perfect.
So then not a lot of stuff is repeated, and I'll try my best to not repeat anything. So that's all you got for that. One thing that I think is important to mention is, like, burnout, and
oh yeah, we can get into that.
Being able to maintain like stamina and endurance, because I've been in leadership positions. I run a club. It's rough. Like, my club was way better in the fall because I was, like, going at it than it is right now. And there's, like, a burnout because of all the different stuff you're involved in. So I'm not going to ask about, like, the overall group, because I'm going to ask the same question to everyone because, like, it's important everyone deals with it. But like, how do you plan to like manage that and keep the same energy now,
Mm-hmm.
like next year in this exact same time when like things are winding down, but still things can be done?
Yeah, I think that one of the greatest strengths I have is being able to be that person who's like able to take on so many things. Like I have pretty high stamina in that regard. I think I already mentioned this, but like I'm a full-time student. I work 2 jobs and I'm involved in like a bunch of different organizations, and that can clearly take a toll on a lot of people. But I think the one big thing is just like prioritizing, right? Just making sure that you know like what you need to accomplish first. And I feel like being in that role of student body vice president, I think that would definitely be like after school, after work, or maybe yeah, I guess like tied with work.
Yeah.
But definitely being that person for students and like understanding that I was elected for this position. And so knowing that I have to represent students is like a very high like regard, and so I need to treat it with the utmost respect, right? Um but burnout, I've definitely experienced burnout before. Like last semester, there was like a point I think in like November where I was just like I just need to mentally, like detach from every sort of single thing. Like, I think even school, there was like a point where I had to ask like my professors for like extensions because I was like, I just can't do it. Like, my brain is like completely at like some sort of stagnant mode where like I just can't think or process.
Mm-hmm.
And it was definitely like a rough time, like a rough 2 to 3 weeks where I was just like, what is happening? Like, I've never felt like this. And then it was really weird because we talked about like scaling up and then scaling down and scaling back up, but it was definitely like I had to figure out like what I was capable of doing, because last year I ended off so strong. I was like, I think, yeah, I ended up on the chancellor's list. I was like doing all these great things and I was like, I can do more, like I can do more. And then in the fall semester I was like, I can't do more. Like I can't do this. And I had the same experience with like running a club and it not going successfully at all, and it's like, what the heck am I doing wrong? Like, why is it not working out the way I want it to work out? And I think understanding like what to prioritize and like asking for help, I think, is like really important. And I think one of the greatest advantages of student government is that we do have advisors. Like Katie and Destin are there to help. Administration is there to help support you and like take on these new roles. And that is important to like tap into those like networks and to ask for help when you need it. And I definitely plan on utilizing that after the running a club did not go as as planned. But it's getting better. It's getting better. We're going to Denver, so it'll be fun.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just want to ask.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned that we would talk about this eventually, and we haven't touched on it
Yeah.
yet. So, regarding your ability, actually, I think we already did. I think because it was about your ability to do all sorts of different things and how you like are able to do it, and I think we touched on it like one piece at a time throughout this
Okay,
conversation.
perfect.
So we won't repeat it. If people want to know about like how you're able to do it, then they could just
listen to the
rewind.
entire thing again.
Yeah, listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
All like 1 hour and 32 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, okay. So, yeah, that was one question. I'm trying to think of. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So anything. So you do this. If you get elected, then you guys will do your thing. If you guys don't get elected, you guys will. I think you guys mentioned that you guys are still gonna like try and like do some of the different stuff that you guys are passionate about.
I definitely see myself like still being involved in student government in some sort of capacity. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I definitely still want to like, if I'm not involved in like the actual Senate or whatever, like still working with the agencies. Like, I don't know what that will look like, but working with them, and then also focusing a lot more into like what I look like outside of college. I feel like a lot of stuff is like, okay, how can I improve myself to like become a student leader? But once college is over, how will that translate into like professional leadership or like business development? And I really want to focus on like strengthening those aspects as well. I don't know what that will look like, but I think that's the fun thing about life, right? It's like after April 20th, things are going to happen and it's all about pivoting. So,
Yeah.
adaptability. So, that's kind of the plan. We're just going to be adaptable, take it one day at a time. And you know what? Things will work out. They may not be exactly what I want it to be, but they will work out. And I know that. So I'm excited.
Yeah. If you have like the right mindset, even if something bad happens, you could turn into a good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So do you know what you might want to do after you graduate or no?
So I'm an HR major, and I'm currently interning in like training. So that's the department I work in. And then over the summer, I'll start interning in diversity and inclusion. And I'm really excited. I think it'll be a really fun experience. I know the company I'm working at is like starting their diversity and inclusion department. So it'll be really fun to see
Good
how
for
it's
them.
like, I know, right? But it'll be really fun to see like how it's kind of brought to life, especially from like being in the foundations, like aspects and like planning everything and then actually implementing things. It'll be cool. But yeah, currently I work on like a team of 10, and the team I'm transitioning to is like a team of 3. So it'll be really fun.
But
So
for
like
the whole company?
no, just
Okay.
like my team. They're both
Okay,
like pretty
okay.
large corporations.
Yeah.
But yeah, my team was like a team of 10. And now it's going to be a team of 3, which I know isn't like a big deal, but like a team of 3 is like really small to like do an entire department, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to see how I factor into that. And I'm really excited to like get myself more into like things that I'm interested in, because the one thing I didn't even realize about HR was how cool it was and how like people facing it was. Like, sure, you can get into like compensation and benefits, but like I really want to work with people and to like actually increase company equity. I feel like I'm talking way too much about like HR, but I think it's really cool. I feel like everyone should like explore HR, and they're not just like the Tobys of your office, but they can be really fun people, and I think they really do try to make business and like the workforce a better place.
Yeah, when there was a company in Lincoln that was having an event. I won't state the company name. Um, yeah, I don't know if we're gonna state. You haven't stated your company
Yeah,
name.
I didn't know if that was like a thing.
I'm pretty sure I know what company you're talking about. That's why I was surprised when you were like, "There's gonna be 3 people in the DEIA." I was like, for that company, only 3 people.
Wait,
But
I'm transitioning companies.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the company that I'm currently working for, I will not be working for them starting May 1st, which is
Okay.
kind of sad, but I'm excited.
A new opportunity.
New
You'll learn
opportunities.
things. But yeah, I went to this event for this company in Lincoln, and they like hosted us and talked to us about their internship opportunities and like new grad opportunities. And then we went upstairs, and there was like this fair of all their different departments. And initially I was going to go straight to their like software engineering team to see
Yeah.
what opportunities they had there, because that's the one I'm gunning for. But en route, I stopped at their DEIA table
As you should.
and talked with this very nice lady, and yeah, it was a solid conversation.
Yeah, I feel like it's always important to increase company parity, and I know it's a very, I wouldn't say novel concept, but a lot of companies are starting to now realize like how that affects like workers' engagement and things like that. And it's definitely a step in the right direction. So I'm really happy to like be a part of that change and like actually understand what that looks like, because I'm currently in a DEIA class, and I'm not going to say it's like theoretical, because it's definitely like very applicable to the real world, but you can say that about all your classes, right? Until you actually are involved in the actual change. So it'll be fun to kind of see how that looks like, or like if I still want to continue in that department, or if I want to shift, or what that shift looks like.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be a nice opportunity for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I was talking with that lady, she was like, "You're a cool person. You should apply for the internship opportunity within this department." And I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
It's cool to like that this stuff is happening, and it's cool to talk about it, but doing it for like work, for me, I would not find that fulfilling. But I think it is good that there are people out there that find that work fulfilling and are willing to do it like their 9 to 5.
Yeah. No, it's really weird, or like interesting, because I've to write a research paper for like my honors contract through the honors program about how UNO is increasing their DEIA initiatives and their hiring workforce. So not like not the student body diversity, but like the institution side of it, so the business aspect. So like all their administration employees, like how the DEIA department like attracts people to come work at UNO, how they're involved in the hiring of staff, employees, faculty. And it's so interesting because I don't know if you guys are like the viewers or you know this, but the way faculty are like is hired is like very different from like the way staff are hired, and the challenges they face are like very systemic, right? So like faculty have to go through like they have to get their PhD or get very like high training in order to like, you know, even be considered for a faculty position. And there's obviously a lot of barriers in like diversity and inclusion in that. So how do you even create a more like equitable workforce if the people who are applying aren't like very representative of the population that you are currently serving? I don't know. We could like literally have another podcast about like how this all works or like what that looks like. But
Yeah.
I'm really excited to like see how that like focuses or like impacts my career after college.
Cool. So, yeah, you're a sophomore, so you have some time to
Yeah.
ponder and think about
I have
that.
2 years.
Yeah, quite a few more semesters.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's what you might plan on doing later on down the road. I won't go any further into the future because who knows.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's basically all I had
Perfect.
for our conversation. Is there anything else that we touched on that you want to dive deeper into, or anything that we didn't touch on at all that you want to discuss?
I think I just want to reiterate like how much this would probably mean for me and like I guess the other people on my ticket. Just being in these positions, I think we're very capable. And no, did it die?
Oh, please.
No.
No. Okay, well, lesson learned. Okay, how long does this last? This is still like recording, so we'll have the audio portion.
Okay.
So, for the guests listening, what we'll do is I'll still put this on YouTube, but there will be just like a black screen or something. But yeah, now I know. This is my first time like testing this stuff out. I tested the audio out for like a long period of time, but I didn't really test out this camera. So now I know. But they know what you look like. They
Yeah.
know what I look like, so, and they got to see us for like an hour and 40 minutes. So
That's true.
It's not too stressful.
Yeah, but I would just like to reiterate the fact that I feel like this would mean a lot to like everyone or like our team at EnergizeUNO. I feel like we're all very capable. I think a lot of people question our ability to become student government leaders because 2 of our candidates are not currently involved in student government. But I think that leadership outside is very beneficial and a very good perspective on how things can be run, especially successful leaders. I won't touch on their leadership qualities because I feel like they will probably do it and they can probably 100% describe it better than me.
Yeah.
But I think we're all very capable candidates and we would really appreciate your vote. If you decide to vote, please vote.
Should vote.
Yeah, everyone vote.
Speaking of voting, do you want to give any information about what, like, how people would be able to do that?
Of course. Voting opens on Presidents April 17th through 20th, and it closes on the 20th at noon. You should get an email about it in your inbox saying you can vote for student government elections. Regardless of who you vote for, it's just so important to be civically engaged. So please, please, please vote. Please vote because it really, truly does matter. And I know I can speak, or like going off of the debate, both tickets really do have good ideas on like what student government can be, and like a lot of them are overlapping, and I think we both really want to create more engagement on campus. So regardless of what that engagement looks like, you guys do have a say. You guys do have stake in this election. So please, please, please vote.
Yeah, I agree. I'll be voting. That's for sure. I don't know. They were talking about there being like voting areas around campus. Do you know if that's going to be a thing?
I haven't really heard anything from the election commission, but I know last year they had something set up in Milo, like a voting party. So I think that'll be cool if they have that. I'll be attending. I think. Yeah.
If they set something up in PKI, I'll attend. If not, then I'll just vote on my computer at home. Yeah,
I'll probably vote like exactly like April 17th at 12 a.m. Literally be refreshing my inbox, waiting for that notification. But yeah, if there's one thing, like if you don't even want to listen to this 2-hour-long podcast, just one thing to take away, please vote. Please vote. Please vote. Thank you.
Yeah, well, if they heard that, then they listened to this whole thing. So.
Yeah, but they could have skipped to the end. We don't really know. We can't make assumptions.
Very, very true. Okay, so that's all I really have. I will say for the viewers, we kind of hinted at this by some of these errors, like this video problem, and some of the stuff I've said. You said you're the first one, so I really appreciate you being the guinea pig here.
Yeah.
It's really awesome that this idea is happening. I've had this idea for some time now, and I've been procrastinating for some time now. And it's like, well, I need to start this. And this whole election thing has been like, this is a solid time to start. Just talk with these people.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this video or this audio podcast, whatever, will get any views. Like, it might get 0.
But honestly, I feel like I've definitely entered my influencer era, and I'm so excited. Like, I'm gonna start a podcast now.
Yeah,
like you've influenced me.
Yeah, this is cool. Like this is something different. So I might not include this, but I probably will. I've thought of creating, because I'm like entrepreneurial, and I think I've talked with you about this before. I've considered creating like some sort of company, and I'm trying to figure out what type of company that would be. I'm a computer science major, so I like technology and software development, but I also like stuff like this, like media and audio and video. Yeah. So making a studio that produces stuff like this would be really neat. So in the future, I'm probably going to keep this going, keep the momentum going, and I might be doing some other projects down the road. So if you are interested in starting a podcast and being a host of a show, then let me know. I have the gear.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
And this is literally all the gear I have.
No, but it's like enough, so.
Yeah, but if like you had a show and you wanted like 3 other people, it's like, Zach, you only have this gear. I will go out and buy copies of this kit and like do what is necessary, because I think this is really cool. Because like one of the things I value the most is like knowledge transfer, or like taking what people know and sharing it with others. I know I was listening to this podcast with a guy named Ray Dalio, and he's a big money guy, and he said there's these different stages in life, and I think he said one of the final stages that you get into is like giving back, and I feel like I'm already there.
As you should.
But I haven't like even entered like the career stage of like actually developing some really solid skills. But there's things that I know for a fact other people want to know, because there's things that that I would want to know. There's stuff that there's stuff that all of us know that others would like to know. So sharing that through like audio or video, I think is really good.
Yeah, it's definitely Yeah, I agree. I might start a podcast. Depends on my schedule. We'll see.
Yeah, you're also a very busy person, so if you're not able to squeeze it in, that's perfectly fine. But yeah, that's all I got. So no further comments, nothing else that you want to say?
I think I'm good. Thank you for this opportunity. I've literally had a blast. Yeah. Like, I didn't even think that 2 hours flew by until you read the time, and that was kind of insane.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.